Well, on public and higher education. Let me start with first the public education from K to 12. They're depending so much on these assessment tests. Teachers aren't teaching like traditional teachers. They teach a test. When we got rid of tax, I was working as a paraprofessional at Keys Academy in Orange, and all of us were happy because it was going to be the end of tax, and we were going to go back to teaching. Well, they surprised us. There was another thing called STAR. STAR started, and we had to go with the next plan. Start training on the new plan. Even this, Mr. Oliveira talked about on the news, the 15% that the the Texas government putting their hands, the U.S. government putting their hands in the grade book of a senior to graduate. I've seen so many kids come and go, especially at Keys Academy, 20-year-olds coming back for education to pass their tax, and now they've got to pass a STAR. Kids can't multiply 7 times 7. They have to get those TSEL calculators to say 49 to me. 9 times 9 is simple to us because we grew up with traditional teaching, 81. The engagement of teacher-student isn't happening that much because the tests have taken over. I, for one, am I against the test, the assessment test? Yes, I am. I want teachers to go back to become traditional teachers, where they can be ready to come and be individual students at the college and university level. Students can't write a simple paragraph. They can't write a simple test. They can't, when it comes to an essay. Test questions on an essay form, they can't do that. At Keys Academy, I had some students write for me research papers. The way they text is the way it came out to be. And I see that at the university level. I took some courses here with Dr. Church, and he told me this ain't the way it's supposed to be. And he wasn't talking to me; he was talking to other students. I went to traditional teaching, and that's what we need to bring back to the public school systems to get our students ready for the university level and the college level. Thank you.
Mr. Lucio, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, sir, please.
What are your plans for funding public and higher education?
Well, first of all, we actually got to fund it and go through the process of not just cutting our way to prosperity. This past session, I heard things like, we need to cut the fat, but in reality, we were cutting muscle. Texas already operates lean. We need to go back to pre-2006 times and realize that in a growing society, and our projected growth is through the roof, especially along the border, what are we doing to prepare those individuals to become the next leaders and the next teachers and the next businessmen? We're cutting their education. We're creating more students per teacher in the classrooms. We're creating more students per counselor in the education in the public schools. So how do we do it? We first have to generate new revenue. Whether we like it or not, we have to do it. Key Republican senators have come out and said last session we didn't do the right thing, and we need to either one, cut tax loose, that we give these great tax incentives to companies who are generating billions of dollars in profit, or two, we got to consider new innovative ways of raising revenue in Texas. See, in 2006, we cemented the way we generate tax revenue in Texas by creating a flat property tax rate and depending solely on our sales tax. And unfortunately, that backfired on us when Texas, like the rest of the country, experienced bad times. And another thing is, when we have $9 billion in savings, like we do as families, we have a little savings account, and we have bad times, we need to spend that money. Because that's what it's for. It's a security blanket. We need to spend that money. We only funded public education in Texas by $4 billion, and we had $9 billion in the savings account. I don't think that's fair to our children. I don't think that's fair to our teachers or our retired teachers who didn't get a cost of living raise, and for all the other sectors of our community who have been damaged heavily by those tax cuts. By those.
Mr. Oliveira, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. I have been involved in fighting for school finance all my legislative career. I've watched the state of Texas do shameful things where poor school districts would not get the money they deserve and wealthy districts continue to prosper. Where wealthy districts could have a laptop per child or giant stadiums or all kinds of other things when we were struggling to have one computer lab with a few beat-up computers. I've watched school children get money based on the zip code that they live in. That's a shame. We have had to go to the courthouse over 5 times now to challenge our school finance system and to win, because many of my colleagues don't want to do what's right. I've been proud to be a champion for school finance, for fighting for those dollars. There are things we can do. Last session was absolutely shameful. It was actually $5.6 billion that were cut by the Republican-led legislature and House in public education. We have had hundreds and hundreds of layoffs in the Valley as a result of it. We are cramming our classrooms, and we are forcing our teachers to do more with less. And that's not the quality of education our children deserve. Now, as we go forward and we fight this battle again, and it's going to be one that we will have to continually fight, we have to fight for our share. This money should be distributed evenly. It shouldn't be distributed in such a way that some school districts have as much as $15,000 per child, and we have districts that have $7,000 per child. That's unacceptable and it's unconstitutional. Our founding fathers put in our Constitution that we were required to adequately and efficiently fund public education. And the state of Texas should be ashamed because it has not done that.
Would you like to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Having been a teacher, I know what it's like to be inside a classroom and have every chair possible filled. I also know what it's like having to buy the school supplies for my students because they are unable to afford them themselves. But what's striking most is seeing what our last legislature did, not only in cutting funds, but forcing school districts to cut teachers. Whenever we lose resources such as that, we need to take a step back and realize what's going on in Austin. What is the role of the state legislature? In looking at what's happened, we realize that one thing that's not happening, that's affecting the Valley specifically, is that we need our representatives not just fighting, but passionately convincing the Republicans who are in charge that the Valley really needs this help because it's growing greater than anyone else, and they need the jobs. To get those jobs, they need the education. But we also need to ask our local school districts to be careful on how they spend money. We've heard about BISD spending quite a bit of money on some schools with great facilities. We need to question them, and that's something that has to be done at the local level. As the district representative for this area, I would fight for you and lobby as much as I could in Austin to create more funds coming this way. Disproportionate, because I think people in the Valley need it a lot more than they need it in Westlake High School in Austin, or up in Dallas, or the suburbs of Houston. Secondly, in addressing higher education, we realize we need universities to also spend their money wisely. We see some universities like Texas A&M thinking of creative ways of outsourcing projects, not essential to the university functions such as teachers or faculty, but rather some of their services. If they can save a few money there to provide scholarships to help students such as yourselves get to college and to graduate, that's something that we also need to look at. In other words, we need to be creative.